Ford's built some wild machines over the years, but a few were so out there, they never even made it past the prototype stage. We're talking insane styling, experimental engines, and ideas that made executives scratch their heads and say, yeah, maybe not. From futuristic dream cars to muscle monsters that scared the safety boards, these 12 crazy Fords were locked away before the public could get their hands on them.
Number 12. The Ford Cougar II was Ford's moonshot at creating a homegrown Ferrari rival, a sleek two-seat Grand Tourer dripping with European style. Its long hood, fastback profile, and low-slung stance screamed performance, while the interior promised the kind of luxury that could make transcontinental drives effortless. Under the skin, Ford envisioned advanced V8 power, refined handling, and a finish that would elevate it beyond Detroit's usual muscle cars into the realm of exotic GTs. But timing is everything, and 1974 was about the worst possible moment for such a machine. The oil crisis had just gutted demand for high-performance, gas-hungry cars, and safety and emissions regulations were tightening like a vice. For Ford, the Cougar II was suddenly not a daring investment, it was a financial liability waiting to happen. The project was shelved, leaving the Cougar II as a tantalizing what-if in Ford's design history. Today, the surviving concept model stands as a reminder that sometimes the right car at the wrong time never makes it to the road.
Number 11. The Ford Torino King Cobra was born for one purpose: to dominate NASCAR's high-speed superspeedways. With a radical wind-cheating front end inspired by the Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird, it was Ford's ultimate answer in the so-called aero wars of stock car racing. Beneath its sleek nose sat Ford's big block 429 V8, tuned for brutal speed. On the track, this car could have been a legend, but NASCAR changed its rules before it ever got the chance, restricting aerodynamically extreme cars and effectively ending the arms race. On the street, it was no better. The pointed front and massive power made it impractical, expensive, and a magnet for safety concerns. Ford pulled the plug before full production, leaving just a few prototypes. Today, the King Cobra is a rare relic of a time when NASCAR's engineering battles blurred the line between race cars and street machines, and when aerodynamics could make or break a racing dynasty.
Number 10. In 1969, Ford dared to ask a wild question. What if the Mustang went mid-engine? The result was the Ford Mach II, a low, aggressive prototype that looked more like a European exotic than Detroit muscle. With the engine sitting behind the driver, it promised sharper handling and a whole new identity for America's favorite pony car. Ford envisioned it as a Corvette killer, taking the Mustang from boulevard cruiser to track day terror. But inside the company, not everyone was sold. The bean counters saw the cost, the engineers saw the complexity, and the marketing team worried it was too foreign for Mustang buyers. Meanwhile, the Corvette's sales dominance kept the spotlight firmly on GM. In the end, Ford brass quietly shelved the Mach II, leaving it as a tantalizing what-if in Mustang history, a glimpse of a world where the pony car could have been a prancing horse. Number 9.
The 1967 Ford Allegro II was Ford's vision of a sleeker, faster future. A low-slung, fastback coupe that looked like it could have rolled straight off a spy movie set. With its long hood, short deck, and flowing roofline, it wasn't just a design study. It was a statement that Ford could do elegant and exotic without losing its American swagger. Under the skin, the Allegro II borrowed elements from production Fords, but wrapped them in a far more futuristic package. It hinted at what the Mustang or Thunderbird might become if Ford pushed the envelope. But the reality of production costs, safety regulations, and shifting market tastes meant the Allegro II never got beyond the concept stage. Today, it survives as one of those quiet legends in Ford's design history. A beautiful fastback that whispered of possibilities the public never got to buy. Number 8. Before the world knew the Mustang as a sporty pony car, Ford had a completely different idea: the 1963 Mustang I. This wasn't a coupe for cruising Main Street. It was a tiny, mid-engine, two-seat sports car that looked more like a European racer than an American production car. Built with an aluminum body and powered by a small V4 engine, the Mustang was light, agile, and aimed squarely at sports car enthusiasts. It debuted at Watkins Glen during the U.S. Grand Prix, where racing legends like Dan Gurney took it for a spin, thrilling crowds. However, Ford realized that a low-volume niche sports car wouldn't deliver the sales numbers they needed. The name Mustang survived, but the concept shifted entirely, evolving into the 1964.5 Mustang we know today, a mass-market success. In hindsight, the Mustang I stands as a fascinating what-if, a reminder that the car we got could have been something radically different. Number 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts, or maybe don't, because the car we're talking about today didn't care much for safety belts or safety at all. Ford RS200, the rally monster America couldn't handle. Introducing the Ford RS200, a turbocharged all-wheel drive, mid-engined freak of nature, born for one thing: Group B Rally, the wildest, most unhinged era in motorsport history. This car was like if a go-kart married a rocket and gave birth to a Banshee on wheels. Now here's the thing, Ford built this beast in the UK, but tried to offer it in the US as a kind of barely street-legal thrill machine, and the US government took one look and said absolutely not. Why was it banned? Simple. It was too fast, too loud, and way too dangerous. The RS200 had over 450 horsepower, a 0 to 60 time under 3 seconds, and the crash protection of a cardboard box in a hurricane. It didn't just break speed limits, it laughed at them while doing four-wheel drifts. This thing was so lethal that even rally organizers gave up. After several fatal accidents in Group B, the entire class was shut down, and the RS200 became a legend overnight. The kind of car you'd whisper about at car meets like it's some kind of mythical beast. In America, never road certified. It didn't meet crash standards, emission standards, or really any standards except for pure chaos. The only way you could legally own one is if you convinced the government it was a show and display car, basically a museum piece with a turbo. So in the end, the Ford RS200 was the rally dragon that never got to breathe fire on US soil. Too fast to fail, too dangerous to sell, and yet, somehow, too cool to forget.
Number 6.
one of the greatest automotive masterpieces of the 21st century, the Ford Shelby GR1 concept car. A car so gorgeous it looked like it was carved from a speed-hungry, chrome-loving Greek god. Introduced in 2004, this stunning car was Ford's love letter to the legendary Shelby Daytona Coupe, but with a 6.4-liter V10 engine, rear-wheel drive, and a body made almost entirely of polished aluminum. That's right, it was essentially a mirror that could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. So why haven't we seen one of these beauties on the streets? Because, let's face it, hand-building supercars from shiny aluminum isn't exactly cost-effective unless you're selling gold bars in the trunk. The GR1 was too expensive to mass-produce, and it couldn't meet modern safety standards without a complete overhaul. Airbags? Crumple zones? Puh, the GR1 chose to die rather than be practical. It wowed at every auto show it touched, and then, like a supermodel with commitment issues, it disappeared. Poof, gone. Back in the Ford design archives, probably next to a dusty stack of what could have beens. But here's the rub. Even though it never made it into production, the GR1 remains the epitome of untapped potential. It's the one that got away for car enthusiasts, a V10 terror in a tuxedo that showed us what muscle cars might look like in the future if accountants didn't exist. In short, the Shelby GR1 was the coolest ghost of the 2000s and proof that sometimes dreams come on 4 wheels, make 600 horsepower, and then disappear before you can say, "Take my money."
Number 5. Introducing the 1969-70 Ford Mustang Boss 429, a muscle-bound brute created not because Ford wanted to dominate the streets, but because they wanted to crush NASCAR. See, NASCAR rules said, you want to race it, you gotta build at least 500 for the street. So Ford, with a wink and a prayer, took their massive 429 cubic inch V8, originally meant for the high-banked chaos of oval racing, and jammed it into a Mustang shell. Problem was, the engine didn't fit, like at all. Ford had to call in Carcraft, a specialist shop, to surgically alter the Mustang's front end just to cram this behemoth of a motor in. It was like trying to stuff a bear into a gym locker. Tight, awkward, but technically possible. And voila, the Moss 429 was born. Street legal? Technically, yes. Practical? Not even a little. This thing idled like a washing machine full of bricks and guzzled fuel like it had a grudge against gas stations. It had a huge domed hood, massive power, and a price tag that made average buyers go, "Wait, you want how much for something I can't take through a drive-thru?" But make no mistake, the Boss 429 was a loophole on wheels, a snarling low-volume legend built only so Ford could flex on the NASCAR track. And just as quickly as it appeared, emissions laws and safety regs tightened, and the Boss got the boot. Today, it's a mythical beast, part race car, part muscle icon, part regulatory gamble. And somehow, Ford pulled it off. So the next time someone says rules were meant to be broken, just point to the Boss 429 and say, "Nope, just bent a little."
Number 4. Meet the 1958 Ford Nucleon, a concept car powered by, wait for it, a nuclear reactor. Yup, Ford seriously proposed a vehicle that would make Chernobyl look like a warm-up act. This was the 1950s, the atomic age, when people thought radiation was just spicy electricity and nuclear power could do anything. Cities? Powered. Submarines? Nuclear. Why not your daily driver? The idea behind the Nucleon was this: pop a mini reactor in the back, drive 5,000 miles without refueling, and never stop for gas again. Sounds great until you realize you're basically driving a small-scale nuclear bomb down Main Street next to a school bus. Why was it banned? Let's see. Radiation shielding, not included. Crash safety, hilarious. Nuclear containment, only in dreams. It never worked, never would, and never should. The nucleon was so far removed from practical reality that even science fiction writers were like, "Whoa, tone it down." In fact, the concept was so bonkers that Ford didn't even build a working prototype, just a static model, probably powered by the same kind of hope that fueled Cold War optimism and bad haircuts. So why does the nucleon matter? Because it's the perfect symbol of 1950s techno-madness, an era when we thought we could solve traffic, energy, and boredom with uranium. In short, the nucleon was the world's most dangerous drive-through order waiting to happen. Cool idea? Maybe. Terrifying in real life? Absolutely.
Number 3. The 1996 Ford Indigo, a concept car so outrageous it makes modern supercars look like rental sedans. So what made it insane? For starters, it had open wheels, carbon fiber everything, and a 6.0-liter V12 engine that Ford basically built just to say, "See, we can do wild too." And it wasn't just a show pony. It actually worked. It moved. It screamed. It probably frightened small children and birds. Built using IndyCar tech, the Indigo featured a chassis straight out of a race car playbook. No roof, no doors, no windshield, no comfort. You didn't get in, you strapped yourself to it and hoped your fillings didn't rattle out. Now, why was it banned from the road? Because, unsurprisingly, there are rules. Minor things like crash safety, pedestrian protection, bumpers, mirrors, and, oh yeah, not turning into a blender if it touches a curb. The Indigo had 0 of those. Ford knew it would never pass street-legal standards, and honestly, that was the point. This was never meant for grocery runs. The Indigo was Ford's way of flexing, eroding what if, powered by dreams, V12s, and a total disregard for speed limits. So, if you ever wondered what happens when Ford throws out the rule book and just builds something for pure speed and chaos, the Indigo is your answer.
Number 2. Mustang Mach 2 concept. A mid-engined Mustang. Yes, you heard that right. Back when everyone was busy stuffing big blocks under long hoods, Ford said, what if we flipped the whole thing around and went full Italian exotic? The Mach 2 wasn't just a sketch, it was a real running prototype, complete with a 289 V8 mounted behind the seats, sleek 2-seater styling, and a stance that screamed Ferrari fighter. It looked like a Mustang and a Ford GT40 had a beautiful, fast baby. So why was it canceled? Well, it came down to politics, ego, and a little thing called the Corvette. The Mustang was already printing money as a pony car icon. Dropping a mid-engine monster into showrooms might have messed up the brand, confused the market, and, worst of all, upstaged GM's precious Corvette, which Ford wasn't quite ready to do yet. And let's be honest, putting a mid-engine Mustang in dealerships in 1967 would have melted boomer minds. So instead of taking the risk, they shelved it. No production, no glory. Just one lonely prototype and a big what could have been for gearheads everywhere. Today, the Mach 2 lives on in the What If Hall of Fame, a car that proved Ford had the guts to go radical, but maybe not the guts to follow through. Still, it gave us a peek at an alternate universe where Mustangs could have hunted Ferraris. Sometimes the coolest cars are the ones that never make it past the boardroom.
Number 1. The Ford GT90, a concept car so outrageous it made Ferraris look like taxis. This thing had a 720 horsepower quad-turbocharged V12. That's right, quad-turbo. Basically 4 hairdryers strapped to a mutant engine made from 2 V8s smushed together. Because why not? The GT90 was shaped like it crashed out of a video game. It had a sharp wedge-shaped body, butterfly doors, and a top speed north of 250 miles per hour. In theory, no one dared floor it long enough to confirm. Why? Because this wasn't just a car, it was a rolling danger zone.
So why was it banned? Or more accurately, never made road legal? Easy. No airbags, no emissions compliance, no crash testing. And oh yeah, the exhaust reportedly got hot enough to melt nearby bumpers. Seriously. Ford wasn't trying to sell it, they were trying to make a statement. The GT90 was meant to scream, "We can still build the craziest car in the world when we feel like it." And scream it did. Then it vanished. Only one GT90 was ever built. It did the auto show circuit, appeared in a couple video games, then quietly retired to a life of myth and mystery. Thank you, and remember, if your car melts other cars, it probably won't pass emissions.
Make sure to subscribe and smash the like button.